Welcome back for day 3 in self-isolation / quarantine. So I decided to self-isolate myself out for a walk. So this is my prison right now. Pretty rough, eh? Although seriously, even after just a few days, I am feeling a little bit the effects of lack of social contact. Of course, I'm chatting to people via different messaging apps and things like that, but just not that ability to just, go and talk and interact with someone, even when they're just through the other side of a wall or something like that. It does weigh on you a little bit. Anyway, if you've been watching particularly the last video, you're probably interested in the cliffhanger that I kind of started and ended with, and that I may have been exposed to the coronavirus. And I did get the call again late yesterday afternoon, early evening, and this is interesting. Particularly people in New Zealand are going to be should be very interested in this. So the story is, the taxi driver, who, to recap, he took me from the airport to where I was staying. Prior to that, he had transported another passenger, I'm not sure how long ago, from the airport. This is what he does. And later, that passenger tested positive for coronavirus, developed symptoms and tested positive. So the taxi driver, of course, was traced and contacted, and he did the responsible thing to go in for testing. And they didn't test him, because he doesn't have symptoms yet. He did actually have a tiny bit of a cough when I rode with him, but not something I'd be worried about in the scheme of things, because that could be anything. But having been in contact with the coronavirus, a confirmed case of the coronavirus, you got to think, a taxi driver regularly in contact in a confined space with multiple people who are going to diverse parts of the community, surely he would be a priority to test to see if there has been any risk of onward transmission. Apparently not, though. The New Zealand government is saying they have plenty of tests, there's no restriction on the capacity for testing right now, etc., etc., and that they're not rationing tests. Really? We know that many carriers of this virus will be asymptomatic, and they're not going to test a taxi driver who has had confirmed contact with a case. I really question that. I really question if they are being fully open with their capacity for testing right now, and that concerns me. I'm not concerned for myself, not really, because I understand it to some extent, that if they are limited in supplies, they're wanting to focus those on where it's needed most, etc., etc., etc. And in the end, like in terms of what I do, it's not going to really make a big difference. Of course, if the driver tested positive, I would expect myself to be tested as well. But in practical terms of what I'm actually going to do, I'm self-isolating, I'm staying away from people. Here I am self-isolating out on a walk, which is perfectly allowed within the requirements. It wouldn't make a big practical difference, really, but I don't know, it seems a little bit like they're not being fully open about what's happening, and this is a problem when they start giving not entirely accurate information about one thing. It then sort of begs the question of if you can fully trust and believe them about all of the other things that they're saying. So I find that a little bit concerning. Anyway, carrying on. What am I up to today in my self-isolation? Going for a walk, which is nice. It was raining earlier, so which is not unusual in Auckland. I thought I'd make the most of it, get a little bit of fresh air while I can, because again, you know, in New Zealand I think we'll probably still have the ability to do stuff like this, maybe, but it could be that they tighten down even more, and we're not able to go out for walks and things anymore either, which is very common, I know, in other parts of the world. So I hope no one sees any of what I'm posting in these vlogs as a poor me sort of thing, because I know a lot of people in other parts of the world, and maybe even some people in New Zealand, have it much worse than I do right now. But for those who aren't experiencing this, it's a little bit of an insight into what's, you know, how things are for people, and it's a little bit of solidarity for those who are in a similar or even a worse position, you know, to see someone else going through it as well. So other than a walk, carrying on with normal routines, you could see from the little intro to this video, I am doing some Qigong regularly. That's a very good thing for keeping your immunity and just your general health going well, and working on some things behind the scenes in terms of some of the online offerings from Long White Cloud Qigong. Of course, Long White Cloud Qigong has offered online training in Qigong for, you know, for a long time, for many years. Things are a little bit complicated though, because I have been in the process for some time of starting a process of restructuring all of the courses and the things that we teach. And I'm not even close to being able to launch those. The old system really needs to be changed. Then on top of that, as I've mentioned, coming back to New Zealand is really not like I'm just coming home and everything back to normal, because I wasn't just on a holiday, I was in the process of relocating. And so there's all the practical things of, you know, I'm very fortunate I'm able to stay at my sister's place right now, but I don't have a home or a space of my own, and I don't have, you know, a setup to do many of the things that I need to do. And then beyond that, in the background of all that, my legal and business structures, I was in the process of closing them all down so that I could, you know, change things with the relocation. So what do I do with that now? Do I sort of reignite things here in New Zealand and all of the paperwork and hassle and expense involved with that? Do I look still to set up structures overseas? It's really hard to know, because I don't know how long, and I don't suppose anyone knows how long all of this is going to go on for. How long am I going to be stuck? Doesn't sound nice to say stuck, but have to be in New Zealand, which is not where I was planning to be. If it's only going to be a couple of months, it probably doesn't make sense to continue with my business structures in New Zealand from the point of view of the administrative work and the expense and the tax implications and so on. But if I'm going to be here for a year or more, which at this stage, again, no one knows, but that seems like a not unrealistic possibility, well then of course it would make sense to continue to use New Zealand business structures. So those are some of the fun things going on in the background for me today. Not easy, because I really would like to start to be offering some of those enhanced online offerings for people doing Qigong, but it's pretty hard to do that without these fundamental things in the background, which of course have all been disrupted. But in the meantime, if you are interested in Qigong, if you think, you know, you've got plenty of time at the moment and you would like to practice some Qigong, which I highly recommend, gentle exercise, great way to maintain your health and you know, even just keep you occupied if you are in a self-isolation situation. We still do have the old materials. They are still available on the website, so you can go through and look at those, and you know, maybe that could be a good thing for a few people out there. All right, well, again, here is my beautiful self-isolation prison. I've come to the lake today. Quite a nice spot. Yeah, I'll keep you filled in. Probably some of these vlogs are going to be more interesting than others, depending on what's happening. But hopefully I'll have some interesting things for you. I'm going to keep it up daily, even if there's not too much to report. I'll find something to say. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you on the next one.